Good morning, Ochieng.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
How are you?
Very fine, and you?
Right. You're not new on Boss TV, but perhaps maybe somebody's watching you for the very first time.
Sure.
Who is exactly Mr. Kithenji?
Mr. Ochieng Kithenji is a young Kenyan, born in Kenya, living in Jomvu, aspiring for an office of leadership. I'm also a businessman, and I am young, and I hope to be a role model to other young people who have dreams and aspirations for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. Very true. Quite an introduction. Now, coming back to our topic, before even we get far, youth for change. There has been a lot of talk about youths having to play a role in bringing change into our society. Do you feel this conversation is something that needs to come to an end, and we need to see things practically out there, and it's not about theoretically and rhetorics?
First of all, I would like to thank you, Ogega, for inviting me to your show once again. And I also want to answer your question by reminding you that there has come another opportunity for us, the youth, to publicly declare before the world that our time has come. I said it previously on our show, on this show, that the youth need to take the destiny of leadership into their hands. Because when we were younger, we were told we are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, today, that tomorrow has come. And it is upon us to realize that this is the best opportunity and shot for us to take that destiny of leadership into our hands. Because after us, there will come another generation. Today, young people between the age of 18 and 35, majority have families, and some maybe do not have stable families, but they have children. Maybe they could not be able to sustain marriages and got children out of marriage.
Right.
And now this is the time for us to start shaping our future.
Right.
And the wind of change that truly reflects the position that youth are after change. I will use an example of one of my mentors, the presidential candidate for Uganda, Mr. Bobi Wine. He was only 38 when
he is your mentor?
He's one of my mentors, among many other mentors.
Right.
Yeah, and he stood up against a perceived oppressive leadership and decided to give a shot at the presidency. One other mentor I can tell you really inspires me is just the other day we have witnessed a record-breaking sportsman. And last time when we were on this very show, I remember likening my candidature to the journey that this athlete, Mr. Ferdinand Omanyala, has demonstrated to the rest of the world. Omanyala is now a record-breaking sprinter, recognized by the whole world. You witnessed yesterday he was awarded by one of the large sponsors in the sports sector, Odibets. They do not only sponsor sports, but various activities involving the youth.
True.
So there is a growing desire for change among young people.
Right.
And that desire for change is unstoppable.
Very unstoppable.
And we are going to witness a situation in this country where I like to call it an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
Very true. But then, Bwana Kithenji, you know, it's quite good to understand that there is a wind of change coming.
Yes.
And that this wind, perhaps it's being propelled by the youths
Yes.
But the biggest question is it going to be practical out there? We need to see, it's not the very first time that it's been said out there that the youth can bring change in our society. Time immemorial, even our fathers had to be told that. But it came, it went, and it passed. And right now, this kind of generation, still, the same words that were used during our fathers' time are the same words that are being used today. What assurity do we have, we as the youth currently, that this idea and the notion of us bringing change is something that we'll see out here?
Now, this call for change by the youth is being motivated and fueled by the common problems that young people share. Because today, young people share similar problems, economic problems, social challenges that now culminate into a desire for political change. For instance, today a lot of young people cannot afford a steady living. Most of young people are jobless. The joblessness now it cuts across all the young people, regardless of their tribe, regardless of their religion, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their status, social status. Because a young person who is very successful today cannot enjoy their success with other young people who are perceived to be unsuccessful, because you cannot break you cannot break the social status alone. You have to move with other young people. Because if, let's say, for example, Ogega, today you become successful. Your friends, your peers around you are watching you. It becomes very difficult to enjoy your success when your peers are languishing in poverty. So these calls for change are going to be fueled and are still being fueled and motivated by the common problems that we share.
Right.
Yes.
Very true. And we'll be coming to the common problems and how the youths can even try and solve them. But then, is this potential that you're talking about to bring change, the kind of mentality and the kind of way you're speaking it right here, do you feel the youths out there do understand that kind of potential rests in their hands? Do you feel like they know it or something?
Shadrach, the youth today have access to information. They have direct access to information. Most of the youth today are knowledgeable. Most of them have gone to school up to a certain level of education that enables them to read and write and express themselves. And with the advent of technology, information is on our fingertips.
Right.
The suffering that the youth in Homa Bay County or Kisumu County or Marsabit County can easily be observed or recognized by a young person in Kwale and Kilifi with the advent of technology.
Right.
So having that access to information is one of the drives that really motivates young people to make this practical, because, like I said earlier, the problems are shared and the problems are visible. Now, but that visibility of the problems that young people are going through countrywide is what unites young people. And if you ask me about the practicality, look at the movement that was formed and created by Robert. His official names are Robert Chagulani, Bobby Wine in Uganda. Young people only need another young person to stand up and motivate them and tell them, you know what, it can be done. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
But then that young person who can stand out and come out bold enough so that he can get support from the others is a few that we lack in the country. Like currently, when you look at things the way they are, it's like they're accountable. You know, why is it so? Why do we not see like young leaders coming out bold enough to speak about issues?
Now, it takes a lot of courage and bravery, and the courage and bravery are a product of the anger and the desire that young people
What do you mean
have
when you
today.
say anger?
By anger, I mean today young people are not satisfied by services being offered by the government. Today young people are not satisfied by the mode, the type of leadership representing them. Mm-hmm. And that is what fuels anger in young people. Mm-hmm. And of course, there are constitutional ways to express your views, your anger, your burning desire for change. And to be honest, you see, young people are not comfortable when they see that they're just being used as tools to advance the agenda of the older generation. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. What occurred with the KEMSA scandal. You realize that there were PPEs that were supplied by one company from the media. It's called Kilig Limited.
Right, true.
If you check the directors of Kilig Limited, you find one of the directors, okay, the key person was a young person, mm-hmm. Just a lawyer, a young lawyer, 27 years old. Mm-hmm. But in real sense, when they were summoned when they were summoned in Parliament by the Parliamentary Investments Committee, you could clearly tell that this young person was being fronted by the older generation, mm-hmm. to be able to advance their agenda, steal public funds, and then thereafter they're just used and dumped. So that is what really brings about anger in young people. Right. When young people in society see that they are only being used as a stepping stone for others to uplift their malicious agenda, these things they're in the public domain, and the young people have access to all this information. Right. So when young people read these things, they really get agitated.
Right.
And some of us have come out because we feel that we need to put an end to this. We do not want a situation whereby youth are being misused and abused.
Right. Yeah. Very true. And coming out, Hon Kithenji, you'll agree with me, it's not easy, like you mentioned. It takes a lot of courage.
True.
But then, what are your expectations in terms of coming out and wanting to speak about these issues? And how can you even do it and make sure that the change that you want is what you get out from it?
Now, in simple terms, youth have to be mobilized. Youth have to be mobilized. They already know what their problems are. And mobilization today has become less expensive. Mm-hmm. Why am I saying mobilization has become less expensive? Through technology, you can be able to communicate your message. And I expect that through technology and the use of social media to advance the message of change, because the world we are living in today, you cannot rule out social media in communication.
Right.
So we are going to communicate our message of change using social media and using technology. Because
is it a tool enough to bring change?
It is good enough to bring change. Social media has brought down dynasties. Social media brought down the long rule of Omar al-Bashir in Sudan.
Right.
Social media brought down the long rule of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Social media has brought down so many powerful, long-standing dictators just by use of communication through social media. Mm-hmm. So in my area, I feel young people are looking at my message, and they are reading my message, and they resonate with my message, and they relate with my message, and very soon you're going to see a difference.
A very big difference.
Yes.
That's what you say?
Yeah.
And we will wait and see. But then, the biggest question that comes out from this whole process of bringing change is that how can the youths out there be blindfolded? They have been blindfolded, of course, but then who is going to open up their eyes and see the reality in it, that they do carry the potential to bring change?
Shadrach, in our small way, in our small way, we try to sensitize young people through gatherings of not more than 15,
Right.
public gatherings of not more than 15 young people. And that is, of course, in observance with the COVID-19 protocols. And in our small way, but in a very intensified way, we are spreading our message using social media. And young people are, day by day, the numbers are growing day by day. The reception is very positive.
Right.
And I believe that by the time we get to election day, because that is the D-Day, by the time we get to election day, we will have sensitized enough, we will have communicated enough to the young people on what they need, because what is before us is actually marketing. Every other aspirant is coming in as a marketer. It's an open market. And how you present your product and how you sell your product really matters to the consumer. And the young people, being the major consumers of our message, are they're day by day accepting this message, and they're resonating with the message, and they relate with the message. And
Right.
I believe by the time we get to election day, the youth are going to speak with one voice by their vote.
Right.
Yes.
But then, Hon Kithenji, why do you feel until we get to an election period, that's why we begin talking about youth standing out for change? Why does this conversation not begin earlier, in the previous number of years ago? Why should it come every time we have an election?
That's a very good question, Shadrach. You see, change is a dynamic process. And elections are a very critical period for generations.
Right.
The old, the young. Elections are a very critical period for generations to make decisions concerning their future. And for these decisions to be made, it's a gradual process. From the time elective leaders are put to office to the period they are starting their operations in office, and going forward to when they're running their operations, and to the time now they face the replacement of their replacement in office.
Right.
Now, when leaders are in office, the conversation on change cannot take how can I call it? Cannot take a momentum when they are fresh in office. It is usually respectful to recognize that those that are in office
Right.
need time to deliver. So the more we near the electioneering period, when we have given them time to deliver to the people, we are usually sitting on the backside, observing their activities and how they are running their operations. But when it nears the electioneering period, that is the time now to start sensitizing the masses and telling them, look here, we gave these people the opportunity to serve, and this is the much they have done, and now it's time for us to replace them. So it is just out of respect that, say, from last election period of 2017, now we are 4 years down the line, I don't find it wrong to call for change at this point in time.
Right.
Because we've given them enough time to deliver, we have seen their capabilities, and now it's time for us to call for change.
Right. Suppose now we get into the election and whatever you're talking about here does not seem to come out as your expectation are. For example, bringing the change that you're talking about here. Will we continue talking about this stuff, or it will just be done with?
Now, we have come up with a movement. We call it the silent majority, or we can also refer to it as the Tunabadilisha movement. This is not going to be just a political movement for the season. This is going to be a lifetime political movement for young people. It's going to be a vehicle, in future it's going to be a vehicle for young people who have real ideals, practical ideals, sincere ideals to make a difference to society. So it is a movement that has a future, and it is a movement that is supposed to create hope in young people and society, and always remind them that there is no room to despair. We have always another chance. We always have another chance. 2022 is not necessarily the end game, but we have to keep the ball rolling.
Right.
Yes.
Very true. Right. I want to take a short break here, but when I come back, you'll be telling me there is this saying out there that most of the youths' ambitions and potentials are being killed by their fellow youths. How do we get to stop that? How even does it even happen? Who allows it to happen? If we are talking about addressing issues about the youths and their potentials in bringing change, who then pushes them down? Is it the youth themselves? We might be blaming the old guys and but of course the problem is with the youths themselves. How so is that? It's what we'll be coming to talk about. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about matters of youths for change. It is said out there that you've got the potential to bring change in the society at the point at which you are living in. But then that potential seems not to be making out and coming out to be materializing and practical enough, so to speak, out there. That's why we want to take time and discuss about this matter to try and change your mindset, you as a youth, and make sure that going forward into the general election, the said notions and mentality that we are supposed to bring the change is supposed not to just be a word of mouth, but actions also need to speak louder than the words themselves. Time for us now to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be continuing that story, or rather that topic, and we will also look into other matters that pertain to how Mr. Kithenji here is looking forward to bring change in the area at which is also looking forward to become a leader in line with whatever he will be talking about here. Don't go too far, stay put. Hon Kithenji, welcome back to the second part.
Thank you.
Now, before we took a break, I was asking you.
Yeah.
Youths are the ones who pull down their fellow youths. And it seems that this drive to try and bring change is something that we are even wasting time to discuss in the first place. And maybe we are fighting a battle that we are not winning anytime soon. Is that the case?
Now, Shadrach, to some extent, your question has a valid answer. It's a valid concern, because today, those who are in power, when they hear that there are other upcoming young candidates want to outseat them, definitely it takes a natural course that anybody who is in a position of office would not take in replacement positively. Like automatically, for instance, now if someone came here and said they want to replace you, Shadrach, without notice or without proper preparation, definitely you would give resistance, right? So it takes a natural course to have that form of resistance. And it is out of that natural course that you would find those in office would want to use young people to suppress the ambitions of other young people, definitely by compromising them out of the knowledge that young people are desperate, young people are jobless, young people do not have financial income. And they try to create, actually it's not creation, but it's a deception. They try to deceive young people by giving them a profession that they try to make. They give them handouts and money to create a profession for them by giving them an obsession to criticize those who want to outseat them.
How detrimental is it, the thing you're talking about here?
To society, the after effects are dire, because you cannot keep doing things the same way every other day expecting different results. Because, for instance, where I come from, we have had an administration over the last 10 years, and that automatically calls for change. There shouldn't be much resistance out of that, because 10 years is quite enough to make a difference in any society. So if young people come up and express their desire to make a difference by voting a different way or choosing different leaders,
Right.
I think it's not too much to ask for.
Right.
Yeah.
For those of the youths who do that kind of thing you're talking about here, having to be used to sabotage some of the efforts being made by other young leaders and young youths out there who are coming out bold enough to speak about issues, what can you say to them, and what exactly do they even need to try and bring them to in line with the, whatever you're talking about here?
Now, out of vulnerability and lack of steady financial income, personally, I don't take any offense with them. I personally don't take offense because I understand where they're coming from. I understand the troubles and challenges they're going through every other day. And it is out of these handouts that maybe they try to earn a living. But I would only challenge them to stand up and look at themselves on the mirror. You see, Michael Jackson came up with this song, it's called Man in the Mirror. You are the man in the mirror. If you want to make a difference in society,
right,
stand before the mirror and look at yourself. You are the face of change. So I really don't take offense in young people trying to suppress our ambitions. I understand. But you see, one thing that really motivates me and makes me have a warm understanding with them is the fact that handouts are not sustainable.
Right.
They're not sustainable. And now the earlier we have started our calls for change, I really doubt whoever is trying to suppress our calls for change will be able to sustain these young people with handouts to that time when people have to make the key decision of making a vote.
Right,
yeah.
Very true. Now, the fact that we are headed to an election next year,
yes,
we've had leaders coming out, top leaders also at our constituency levels and in Mashinani area, saying that and urging the youths not to be used by politicians during this period and during this time. But the biggest question is, who are these leaders, who are these politicians telling off the other politicians not to use the youths, whereas themselves also, we've seen them trying also to use the same youths in maybe propelling the ideas and maybe use them in some kind of way to go and cause chaos. Is it just a talk that seems just to be said to please the youths, and it's all that they want to hear and it's over with that, or what? Now,
sometimes politicians or aspiring leaders, I want to believe each and every candidate running for position have good intentions for the people.
Right.
And the way they deliver their message to the people really matters. And definitely the youth being the most populous and the youth being the vote-rich basket in any election, any aspirant must target the youth in their message. But then there's a sharp difference between young candidates, a message of a young candidate and the message of an incumbent or an elected leader. There is a sharp difference in that a young candidate truly relates to the problems that young people face. And whenever they're building their manifesto would directly reflect the problems that young people face. Because if a young candidate comes up with a manifesto, they would definitely look at the vices and the issues that affect the youth, like drug and substance abuse, the issues of the mental health of the youth, the issues of joblessness and unemployment among the youth. So the manifesto of a young candidate would directly highlight the issues of the young people. So when leaders come with their agenda or their development manifesto, and they try to propel their message to the young people, and they Of course, communication is also a costly affair.
Mm-hmm.
What really counts is how the usage of your finances, or the usage of your finances, how you really apply your finances in spreading your message.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you choose to spread your message by giving handouts, that does not really augur well in society, and actually it's against the law. Mm-hmm. But if you choose to initiate a development project or something that can benefit the youth and open the eyes of the youth so that they can see what really they should engage in society, I think that would be a better way to communicate your campaign agenda or your manifesto.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the youths out there have questioned the, how they say that the young politicians, the young leaders, particularly who are in the youths, it's very difficult for them to talk about issues to do with the youth simply because most of them do not understand what exactly the youths go through. It takes for an older person to understand simply because he has gone through that stage, so he understands better off compared to the youths themselves. Is that correct out there? That is whatever been said, or do you feel also that youths themselves are supposed to propel the issues about the youths?
Now, yesterday I was at an interview with one of the radio stations, and I mentioned, I was asked whether the young people really should be given priority over the older generation. And I would answer your question by saying that there has to be a balance between the old and the young, because the old come with experience.
There has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance between the youth and the older generation. And the youth must work with the older generation. And the older generation must work with the youth.
Okay.
And that is the only way we can be able to create a balance in society. In as much as the young people have outnumbered the older generation, but we cannot wish away the wisdom and the skill and the experience of the older generation. So there has to be a balance of both. Yeah. Right.
Now, let's now talk at individual levels. Like, for instance, if our old guys are watching, how can they help the youths themselves to realize that they have this potential in bringing change?
Now, the older generation have the responsibility of passing the baton to young people. And we have a slightly conservative older generation in society. But you realize today, do you realize years back when technology was taking shape, the advent of technology was taking shape in the country.
Right.
There was a time when the older generation were not comfortable with young people spending their time on smartphones. But today you walk into offices, even public offices, private offices, even the older generation are in all these social spaces, right?
Right.
So the older generation now has gotten a clearer chance or a clearer opportunity to be able to relate with the younger generation through social media spaces and the internet. So given that they have gotten this chance to be able to relate with the problems that the young people face, they're being able to see what young people are, what activities young people are engaging themselves through social spaces. Now that should be able to enlighten them even further and ease their ways of understanding the problems of the young people, and even ease the process of passing the leadership mantle to the young people.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. Now, the prospect of that happening come 2022, is that even possible?
Yes, it's possible.
What does it take for it to be possible?
Like I said again, for it to be possible, it's just a matter of intensifying communication of the message that young people are calling for change, and that message can be best communicated communicated through social spaces.
Right.
Yes.
But the mentality out there, for specific for the youths, they say, who cares about whatever happens after 2022? Provided I live my life, go sort out my issues, look for a job, do whatever I do best for myself, you know?
Now, there is that mentality even in society today, that young people have this me, myself, and I attitude, all right? But like I put to you earlier, the commonality of our problems has taught us, young people, that you cannot walk alone.
Mm-hmm.
They say if you want to walk faster, you walk alone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to go further, you have to walk together. So young people have come to that realization.
Right.
And definitely, young people will come together and drop that me, myself, and I attitude. Yeah.
Right. We are also looking forward to make it maybe to be practical, and we'll wait and see how that is gonna go well in after the 2022 general election. And speaking about the 2022 general election and the wind of change that you were talking to me earlier, it's one of the wind of changes that is blowing in Jomvu constituency, to be specific, right?
Yes.
And of course, we will be coming back also to get to hear what exactly are you looking forward to bring in terms of the changes, particularly in Jomvu constituency. Sure.